Andy Boyer, Jim Hawley, and Mina Tinajero with Race Day Live, presented by AMSOIL. This is this week's track segment for round 3. Now, one thing that's really unique about this track this weekend, guys, is it's a right-handed start, and that creates a little bit of difficulty for the riders, Myra.
Right. So, Jim, you know, I'm not a professional like these guys, but I do know that whenever I'm riding, my brake is on the right side. What are these guys going to need to do to get through this first right-handed turn?
That's a great question, Myra. I mean, this presents a big problem when you go to run it down into that first turn, because at one point you're braking, and then once you take your foot off to make that turn, that's it. No more brake. Maybe some of the guys might be able to scrub a little bit off with their front brake if they get in too hot, but then I've seen guys grab too much front brake and lose the front end. So it's going to be interesting getting into this. I like what they do. Once a year or twice a year, we always see a right-handed start. And, you know, all these guys, they just say, you know what, we all have to deal with it, but it is definitely going to be a little bit intense getting into this first turn. But the thing about that Andy and I were talking about is the guy on the far right-hand side of that starting gate, you can see they've kind of altered the backside of the berm here, and normally it's at a 45-degree angle, but they had to cut it off of there because that guy's getting pinched off, so he doesn't get a good jump. He's in a whole lot of trouble because the other guys to the left of him, they're making this right-hand turn. They're going to drive it in. But the other thing that, Andy, you brought a good point is right after this, there's 2 step-on, step-offs, and you got 20 guys in the main event in here trying to deal with that step-on and step-off.
Right. As the championship progresses, the tracks typically get more difficult. This is the most difficult track of the championship so far. In addition to the right-handed start, this track also runs clockwise, which means it's mostly right-handed corners. Just like the first corner, the rest of these corners are more difficult for the racers, going to create some more passing opportunities in the corners, Myra.
Right, so we only have 3 lefties on this track, so I mean, it's going to be a challenge out there. I mean,
yeah,
especially with this first one, guys possibly getting squeezed out, so we'll see what they do.
Well, and the other thing too, Myra, is that 2 sets of whoops we're going to see here at Anaheim for the 3rd round of the Supercross series here, and that always presents a big. I know that a lot of people last week when Andy and we did the track walk on yourself, and we saw those whoops. Well, yeah, they might be easy for these guys out here. All these guys are the top professionals in the world. They can get across them. But for me and you and Andy and everything, those were big whoops, and they're still big whoops here.
Well, you know what? Some guys might have thought that it's easy for the guys out here tonight or, you know, at the race, but, you know, some of them were still struggling last week, and I think they're going to struggle this week too. You know, it happens.
Well, one of the guys we saw struggling, Daniel Baker on that Suzuki team there, he broke his leg in the whoops. Yeah, so they brought in a new guy, Myra, and you got a little bit of insight. We were in the pits earlier. Who did they bring in to fill in for him?
They did bring in a new guy, and it's an Aussie. His name is Luke Clout, so I'm really looking forward to him. I'm going to try to, you know, catch him later on and maybe talk about him and coming over to America for, you know, to fill in for Daniel Baker.
Well, it's round 3. We got an exciting track. We got right-handed corners. We got big rhythms, 2 sets of whoops. It's going to be good.